The bulldozer's engine roared to life at 6 a.m. sharp, its metal teeth gleaming in the dawn light as it positioned itself at the edge of the pristine community pool. Sarah Mitchell stood defiantly in her bathrobe, her finger hovering over the demolition contract she'd signed in secret. Behind her, windows began lighting up throughout Willowbrook Estates as neighbors emerged to witness what would either be the most satisfying act of rebellion in HOA history, or the beginning of a war that would destroy everything they'd built. Karen Holloway's scream pierced the morning air. "You can't do this. This is community property." But Sarah's smile was ice-cold as she whispered to the operator. The first crack appeared in Sarah Mitchell's perfect suburban life on a Tuesday morning in late June, when she found the citation taped to her front door like a scarlet letter. Violation notice, unauthorized personal property usage, community pool area, fine, $500, repeat offense. Sarah stared at the orange paper, her coffee mug trembling in her grip. The pool, they were coming after her for using the pool that sat entirely within the boundaries of her own backyard, the pool she'd paid to have built with her own money on her own land. "Mom?" Her daughter Emma's voice drifted from the kitchen, where she was packing her swim gear for another afternoon with her friends. At 15, Emma had spent every summer day for the past 3 years in that pool, hosting birthday parties, sleepovers, and creating the kind of memories that made adolescence bearable. "It's nothing, sweetheart," Sarah called back, crumpling the notice and shoving it into her pocket. But her hands were shaking as she fumbled for her phone. 3 rings. Holloway residence. Karen speaking. "Karen, it's Sarah Mitchell. We need to talk." "Oh, Sarah." The voice on the other end turned saccharine, dripping with false sympathy. "I was hoping you'd call. I assume you received our notice." Sarah closed her eyes, counting to 3 before responding. "Karen, that pool sits on my property. I have the surveys to prove it." "Well, yes, technically the physical structure might be on your lot, but, Sarah dear, you have to understand the bigger picture here. The community spent months developing our aesthetic guidelines, and that pool, well, it's simply not in compliance with our new standards. New standards that were voted on after I'd already built it. Rules evolve, Sarah. We can't have residents thinking they can just do whatever they want. What's next? Hot tubs, gazebos, trampolines." Karen's voice rose with each word, as if the very thought of such chaos kept her awake at night. Through her kitchen window, Sarah could see Karen's perfectly manicured lawn. Not a blade of grass out of place, her regulation beige mailbox standing at the precise distance from the curb mandated by the HOA handbook. Everything in Willowbrook Estates had to be beige. Beige houses, beige fences, beige lives. I've lived here for 8 years, Karen. I've followed every rule, paid every assessment, attended every meeting. I planted the approved shrubs, painted my house the approved color, even replaced my driveway. When you decided the original concrete was visually disruptive. But this pool, the pool has to go. Sarah, the words hit like a physical blow. Sarah sank into her kitchen chair, staring out at the sparkling blue water where Emma and her friends had just jumped in, their laughter carrying across the yard. "You can't be serious." "I'm afraid we are." The Architectural Review Committee met last night, and the decision was unanimous. The pool creates an unfair advantage for your family, disrupts the visual harmony of the community, and frankly, it's become a gathering point that generates noise complaints. Noise complaints? From who? That's confidential, but I can tell you that several neighbors have expressed concerns about the festivities happening in your backyard. Teenage gatherings, music, people coming and going at all hours. Sarah's grip tightened on the phone. "You mean children having fun, kids being kids? I mean unauthorized community events on private property that affect everyone's quality of life and property values." The accusation hung in the air like smoke. Property values, the sacred cow of suburban life, the justification for every petty rule and arbitrary restriction. My property values, Karen, or yours? Now, Sarah, there's no need to get personal. Sarah stood up, her voice rising. "You're demanding I destroy something I built with my own money, on my own land, because it doesn't fit your vision of community, perfection, and you don't think this is personal. The pool comes down by August 1st, or we'll be forced to take legal action. The fines will continue to accumulate daily until compliance is achieved." The line went dead. Sarah stood in her kitchen, phone still pressed to her ear. listening to the dial tone while watching her daughter do a perfect cannonball into the deep end. Emma surfaced hair streaming with chlorinated water and waved at her mother through the window with a smile so bright it could power the neighborhood. That evening, Sarah sat at her dining room table with a stack of documents spread before her. The original HOA covenants from when she'd bought the house, the property survey, building permits, and a manila folder stuffed with every rule change and assessment notice she'd received over the years. Her husband David leaned against the doorframe, still in his work clothes. "There has to be something," she muttered, running her finger down a page of legal text. "Some grandfather clause, some protection for existing improvements. Honey, maybe we should just talk to a lawyer." "With what money, David? We're still paying off Emma's orthodontist, and you know the school district's threatening those cuts. We can't afford a legal battle with the HOA. David moved behind her chair, placing his hands on her shoulders. "It's just a pool, Sarah." She whirled around to face him. "It's not just a pool. It's Emma's social life. It's the place where she feels confident and happy. It's where she learned to swim, where she had her first pool party, where she brings her friends when they're struggling with divorce or depression or all the other garbage these kids have to deal with." Her voice cracked. "It's the one thing in this sterile, regulated nightmare of a neighborhood that actually brings joy. I know, but nothing. I am so tired of giving in, David. So tired of letting them strip away every bit of personality and life from this place. Do you remember what this neighborhood used to be like? Mrs. Chen had roses growing over her fence. The Garcias had that beautiful vegetable garden. Kids rode bikes in the street without worrying about scuffing the regulation gray paint on the curbs." David nodded slowly, before Karen moved in. Before Karen moved in and decided that community standards meant turning us all into carbon copies of each other. Sarah stood up, pacing to the window. "You know what she told me today? That the pool creates an unfair advantage for our family. An unfair advantage, like happiness, is something that needs to be rationed equally among the neighbors." Outside, the pool lights had automatically switched on, casting a soft blue glow across the water. The automatic cleaner hummed quietly as it traced its programmed path along the bottom, and the waterfall feature trickled peacefully into the shallow end. Sarah had designed every detail herself, researching for months to find the perfect balance of functionality and beauty. "Mom?" Emma appeared in the kitchen doorway, hair still damp from her evening swim. "Chelsea's mom wants to know if we can have the pool party here Saturday for her birthday. She says their apartment complex pool is always too crowded and gross." Sarah felt David's eyes on her, but she couldn't bring herself to look at her daughter. We'll see, sweetheart. Is everything okay? You've been weird all day." "Everything's fine, Em. Just some boring HOA stuff." After Emma went to bed, Sarah found herself back at the dining room table, this time with her laptop open. The Willowbrook Estates HOA website stared back at her, all professional fonts and stock photos of generic suburban happiness. She clicked through the board member profiles, pausing at Karen Holloway's photo. Karen has been a proud resident of Willowbrook Estates for 4 years and currently serves as president of the Architectural Review Committee. She holds a degree in business administration and is passionate about maintaining property values and community standards. Karen and her husband Robert have no children. No children. Of course, Sarah scrolled through the meeting minutes from the past 2 years, watching the slow strangulation of community life documented in bureaucratic language. Garden regulations tightened, fence height restrictions implemented, noise ordinances expanded to include regular social gatherings, pet restrictions added for anything larger than a house cat. And now they wanted her pool. Her phone buzzed with a text from her neighbor Janet, 2 houses down. "Heard about the pool situation. So sorry, this is getting ridiculous." Another text from Mike across the street. "Karen stopped by today asking about suspicious activity in your backyard. I told her the only suspicious thing was her nosiness." Then another. "If you need character. Witnesses about the pool being a positive thing for the kids, count us in." The Washington's Sarah stared at her phone, a plan beginning to crystallize in her mind. She opened her laptop again and navigated to the county assessor's website, typing in her address. The property records loaded slowly, and she scrolled down to the original survey from 2016. There it was, the boundary lines, CL. Sarah woke before dawn on Wednesday, her mind already racing with the implications of what she'd discovered. She slipped out of bed quietly, leaving David asleep, and padded to her home office. The computer screen cast a blue glow across stacks of property documents as she pulled up the bankruptcy filing from 2019. There it was, buried in subsection 4(7)(c) of the Asset Transfer Agreement. All common areas, recreational facilities, and easements within Willowbrook Estates, development to be transferred to acquiring entity pending completion of Phase 3 construction. Phase 3 had never been completed. The bankruptcy had frozen everything in legal limbo, and somehow, through a chain of acquisitions and her own consulting work, she'd ended up owning what Karen thought was HOA property. Her phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. Mike from across the street. Karen's been going door to door since 6 a.m., asking people to sign a petition about your pool. Thought you should know. Sarah's jaw tightened. Karen was mobilizing the neighborhood before Sarah had even had her morning. By 7 a.m., Sarah was dressed and ready for war. She walked outside to find Karen standing on the sidewalk with a clipboard, deep in conversation with elderly Mrs. Patterson from the corner house. "Oh, Sarah." Karen's voice carried that artificial sweetness that made Sarah's skin crawl. Perfect timing. We were just discussing the pool situation. Mrs. Patterson looked uncomfortable, clutching her small dog closer to her chest. "I don't really understand all the fuss, Karen. The children seem to enjoy it." "That's exactly the problem, Mrs. Patterson. We can't have one family providing amenities that should be available to everyone. It creates social divisions, exclusivity. Imagine how the other children feel being left out." Sarah stepped closer, studying the clipboard in Karen's hands. "What exactly are you collecting signatures for, Karen?" "A formal petition requesting emergency action from the HOA board to address the pool violation. We need to think about community, cohesion, property values, insurance liability. Sarah's voice sharpened. "On my property." "Well, when neighborhood children are using the facility, you mean when my daughter invites her friends over, like kids have been doing since the dawn of suburbia?" Mrs. Patterson shifted nervously. "I haven't signed anything yet, dear. I was just listening." Karen's smile became strained. "Mrs. Patterson, I think you'll find the petition quite reasonable. We're simply asking for consistent enforcement of community standards." Sarah pulled out her phone and opened her voice recorder. "Karen, before Mrs. Patterson signs anything, maybe you should explain exactly what authority you think you have over my property." "I don't appreciate being recorded, Sarah." "Then maybe you should be more careful about what you say in public." Sarah turned to Mrs. Patterson. "Did Karen mention that the pool sits entirely on my lot? That I have building permits and property surveys proving it's legally constructed private property?" Mrs. Patterson's eyebrows rose. "Oh my," I thought. "Karen, you said it was built on community land." Karen's face flushed. "There are nuances to property law that—" "No nuances," Sarah interrupted. "Just facts. Legal, documented facts. The HOA has covenants that supersede individual property rights when it comes to community harmony." Karen snapped, her mask finally slipping. "We can't have residents thinking they can do whatever they want, whatever we want, like enjoying our own backyards, like disrupting the peace and character of the neighborhood with unauthorized recreational facilities." Mrs. Patterson took a step back, clearly wanting to escape the escalating confrontation. "Perhaps I should think about this more." "No need to think, Mrs. Patterson," Sarah said calmly. "Karen, authority over legally constructed improvements on private property." Karen fumbled with her clipboard. There are several relevant sections, show her." "I don't have the full document with me right now, but because it doesn't exist." Sarah turned to Mrs. Patterson with a smile. "The HOA can regulate new construction through the architectural review process, but they have no authority over existing legally built structures. Karen is asking you to sign a petition demanding I destroy my own property based on rules that don't actually exist." Mrs. Patterson clutched her dog tighter. "Oh my, this seems like something you two should work out privately." She hurried away, leaving Karen and Sarah facing each other on the sidewalk. "You're making a mistake, Sarah," Karen said quietly, her voice now stripped of pretense. "This neighborhood runs smoothly because people follow the rules and respect community standards. When someone decides they're above all that, I'm not above anything. I'm standing on my own property, defending my own rights. Your rights. What about everyone else's rights to live in a peaceful, well-ordered community?" Sarah felt a flash of genuine anger. A peaceful community? Karen, do you hear yourself? You're the one going door to door at dawn, trying to turn neighbors against each other over a swimming pool. You're the one creating conflict where none existed. I'm protecting property values. Whose property values? Mine have gone up 30% since I built the pool. The families with kids love this neighborhood because it's actually livable. The only person complaining is you. Karen's clipboard slipped from her hands, papers scattering across the sidewalk. As she bent to collect them, Sarah glimpsed the petition text. We, the undersigned residents of Willowbrook Estates, demand immediate action to remove the unauthorized pool structure that destroys community, harmony, and property values. Unauthorized, Sarah murmured. That's an interesting word choice. Karen straightened, papers clutched against her chest. What? You keep calling it unauthorized. But I have permits, Karen, legal permits from the county, which means it's absolutely authorized. Sarah pulled out her phone again. In fact, let me call the county right now and ask them about unauthorized structures. That's not necessary. Oh, but it is. Because if you're going around telling people, my pool is unauthorized, when you know I have permits, that starts to sound like defamation. Sarah held the phone to her ear. County Planning Department. Yes, I'd like to verify the permit status on a residential pool, ... Karen's face went white. Sarah, Wade address is 247 Maple Grove Drive, ... Yes, I'll hold. Sarah covered the phone with her hand. Something wrong, Karen. We can work this out. There's no need to involve county officials, but you just said my pool was unauthorized. Surely the county should know if there's an illegal structure in their jurisdiction. I didn't mean the permits might be valid, but the HOA approval process. Hello. Yes, thank you for checking. Sarah listened for a moment, nodding. Perfect. Yes, that matches my records exactly. She hung up and smiled at Karen. Good news. The county confirms my pool is completely legal and properly permitted. They were quite surprised that anyone would call it unauthorized. Karen's mouth opened and closed like a fish out of water. In fact, Sarah continued, they mentioned that filing false reports about permit violations is a serious matter. Sometimes people get confused about jurisdiction, thinking HOAs have authority they don't actually possess. Now wait just a minute. No, Karen, you wait. Sarah's voice dropped, becoming deadly quiet. I've been patient with your petty tyranny for 4 years. I've painted my house beige, planted your approved shrubs, attended your pointless meetings, where you debate the acceptable shade of mailbox colors. I've watched you systematically drain every ounce of personality and joy from this neighborhood in the name of standards. I'm trying to protect everyone's investment. You're trying to control everyone's lives. And now you want to destroy the one thing my family loves most about our home because it doesn't fit your sterile vision of suburban perfection. Karen's voice rose. That pool is a magnet for teenage gatherings. The noise, the disruption, the noise of children laughing, the disruption of friends enjoying summer afternoons. Sarah stepped closer. Karen, do you even remember what it was like to be a kid, to have fun, to live somewhere that felt like home instead of a museum? This is about more than just your pool. It's about precedent. If we let one person ignore community standards, what standards? Show me the standard that says families can't enjoy their own backyards. Show me the rule that says children's laughter is a violation. Karen's clipboard shook in her hands. The noise ordinance clearly states, the noise ordinance applies to mechanical noise and loud music after 10 p.m., unless you're claiming that teenage conversation violates decibel limits. There's also the issue of parking. All those cars on my driveway, on my property, but the visual impact on the neighborhood, the visual impact of families actually living in their homes instead of treating them like showpieces. Karen's composure finally cracked completely. You think you're so smart, don't you, with your legal research and your permits? But this neighborhood was perfect before people like you moved in. People like me. People who think rules don't apply to them. People who prioritize their own convenience over community harmony. Sarah felt something cold and sharp settle in her chest. Karen, I've followed every single rule. I've paid every fee, attended every meeting, complied with every arbitrary restriction. You've dreamed up the only thing I've done wrong is build something beautiful that makes my family happy. Beauty is subjective. Community standards, a